Hi, everybody. This is Kerstin with the Crystal Lake Library. I am very excited today because I get to chat with and we all get to meet author Michelle Cox. Michelle is local to the Chicagoland area, and she is known for her multiple award-winning Henrietta and Inspector Howard series. Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So I was thinking that maybe we can start by you telling us a little bit about yourself and introducing your series to us.
Great. Sounds good. Well, as you said, I write the Henrietta and Inspector Howard series. So it is a mystery romance series set in Chicago in the 30s. And I like to describe it as a Downton Abbey meets Miss Fisher's murder mysteries. So that kind of gives you a hint as to what it is. There are 5 books so far in the series. Book 5, A Child Lost, just came out this past April. Mm-hmm. It's just a little snippet of what the series is.
That's wonderful. And, you know, that was my next question to you, is that you have the mix of the Downton Abbey and the Miss Fisher murder mysteries, which is totally right, because I read your book and it's totally correct.
Okay, good.
Falls right into that. But I'm curious why did you choose murder mystery and why the 1930s?
Well, that's a great question. You know what? I am a little secret. I am not a huge mystery fan, but I thought when I started writing this book, that it was something that would appeal to an agent. I don't necessarily think that's the case anymore, but that just shows how little I knew about the publishing world at that time. Yeah. I had written a book before the series, and that was just more of a historical fiction, and I could not sell it. So I thought, you know what, I will write something shorter, snappier, sexier, fast-paced, and I thought a mystery would fill that bill. So I set about thinking about how to craft a mystery, and as you may or may not remember, I used to work at the Bohemian Home for the Aged, which is a nursing home on the Northwest Side. Okay. And I heard so many amazing stories of the residents who live there. I mean, I tell writing groups, if you are short of ideas, just go sit in a nursing home for 2 weeks and you will have all the stories that you could possibly ever use. So I just needed a little bit of an idea. I took the story, or I should say I borrowed pieces of one woman in particular, whom I based Henrietta on. And she had this amazing life during the Great Depression in Chicago. And even though I, before that, had more of an affinity for the 40s, she had this detail in her life that she used to work at the World's Fair as a Dutch girl. Wow. And I thought that was such an amazing detail, and I wanted to put that in the book. So I thought, you know what, I'll just shift the series by a decade to the 30s and craft the story around this woman's life. Of course, I had to make up the murder and the inspector and all of that kind of stuff. But then when I decided to turn it into a series, I thought, oh no, now I have to write a whole series in the 30s. But by then, you know, I was much more acclimated to it. I had done a lot of research and I felt like I could do it justice. So that's kind of how that turned out.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really neat. So you're saying that you built the Henrietta character based on this lady that you met at the nursing home.
Right.
Would you also say that you yourself would identify yourself with Henrietta? I mean, she's, I've seen her described as beautiful and young, which she is, obviously, but also has had a lot to deal with already at her young age, yet stays a little bit on the innocent side. So would you identify with her at all? Did you put yourself a little bit in there, or?
Well, of course, the beauty part. No, just kidding. Yeah, I do. I think that there's a little bit of me and Henrietta for sure. Kind of because I came from a small town, and I came to Chicago for college, and you know, it was definitely a case of the innocent in the big city. Mm-hmm. You know, the bright lights, big city. So I had to learn a lot, and so I put some of those experiences into Henrietta, but I think that there's a little bit of me in multiple characters. I mean, there's a little bit of me in Elsie. There's a little bit of me in Clive, I would say, too. So I think that that's what you do as an author, is you draw from so many different parts of yourself or people in life, and you use parts of those and, you know, create these characters.
Right. Now I'm twisted with, I'm deciding which question I should ask you next, because your answer has prompted a couple, but okay, so I'm gonna ask this one. Some people start writing because for them it's a process of healing. Other people are just using their creative talent, or some people write to escape. Why did you start writing? And when did you start writing? I mean, was it back in college already, or?
Wow, that's a big one. Well, you know, I kind of always thought about being a writer, even in high school, but it was too scary of a prospect. So when I started college, I decided that I would go into medicine instead.
Oh, okay.
Thought it sounded less scary. Yeah. So anyway, I pursued science and math for 2 years, and then I happened to be taking a Victorian Lit class, and it really just spoke to me. And I realized that, you know, I had to stop running from what I really felt I should be doing. So I switched my major, but I still didn't have the courage to do creative writing. I switched to literature, which is a close second. And yeah, I ended up working in this nursing home, and then I got married and had kids, and that all kind of went out the window. I never really thought about writing a book. I guess I didn't feel like I was a good enough writer. Mm-hmm. But then, you know, many years passed, and when my oldest was diagnosed with ADHD as a sophomore in high school, everything kind of came to a halt. I had been doing a lot of volunteer work and stuff, you know, charity work. And I just thought, you know what, you need to just, you know, stop what you're doing and focus on, you know, your 3 kids. And so I did that, but it didn't really take as much time to sort of get them on a path in school. And so I had this big glut of time, and I thought, you know what, you can either go back to all this volunteering, or you could get a job, or you could maybe try to write the novel that you always wanted to write. So I decided to write this novel, and it was also a way to deal with a lot of the negativity I saw around me. I mean, for some reason, I think maybe because I'm a pretty positive person, I seem to attract people who are struggling or depressed, and that's fine, but that kind of starts to wear on you. So I thought, you know, rather than spending all this mental energy, you know, on thinking about other people's problems, maybe you should use this mental energy to produce something, to create something. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to write a book, and it's just going to be not to publish, not anything like that. I just want to see if I can sit down and write a book, and if it would be cathartic or helpful for me. And it who knew? It was, and that was kind of the start of the whole thing. And that was probably around 2012 is when I really tried to start.
Thank you for sharing that journey with us. That all makes very much sense, especially having the courage. And sometimes you don't want to step into it right away. Sometimes you take a way around, and you end up there anyway. But how does your family feel about your writing at this point? And do you do it full time at this point then?
Yeah, my husband is incredibly supportive. I mean, I could not do this without his help and his support. So I'm so grateful for that. And I do, my kids, you know, I think I'm a strange anomaly now to them. My 18-year-old just walked into the room, my office the other day, and he's like, "What are you doing on SoundCloud?" I'm like, "Oh, well, you know, I have to try to get out there. So, you know,
Yeah.
I relied on them a lot to help me with all of this newer technology, and that's been really great too. So I'd like to think they're proud of me.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So besides your series, you also have a blog that you write. And that blog is Novel Notes of Local Lore. You can find it on your website, which is michellecoxauthor.com. And how do you find the stories? Tell us a little bit about it for that blog, but how do you find the stories that you put on there? And do some of those make it into the newer editions of the books?
Okay, yeah, the blog is Novel Notes of Local Lore, as you said. What it is I take all of the stories that I heard from the nursing home. You know, there's hundreds of stories that I heard, took notes on, and I take a different story every week. They're true stories. I change the names. But otherwise, everything in the story on my blog is true. And you know, some of them are just incredible. What these people went through, what they lived through, it's just amazing. Mm-hmm. So, the blog has its own little following, actually, separate from the novels, which I think is interesting. And yeah, they do figure into. I'm actually, a little secret is I've actually saved a stack that are so good that I want to turn them into novels. But sometimes, you know, the stories are nice and they're just a nice little, you know, encapsulation of the past. They're not enough to turn into a novel, but I do sometimes use bits of them or bits of the details. And that's kind of part of my research is just having listened to these stories for 3 years. But a lot of those details I think have sunk into my subconscious, and I can tap into those kind of seemingly at will. I am working, like I said, Henrietta is based on a real woman. I am also working on a standalone novel right now, okay, also in Chicago in the 30s, and that is also based on one of these stories that I heard about a mentally challenged girl who ends up pregnant and has to go to a bad girl's home in Chicago to live. So it's kind of her story.
Wow, I was going to ask you that is quite different than what you have written.
Right, yeah.
which must be nice for you too as an author, just to tap into something else than what you have been doing for a few years.
Yeah, you know, it's definitely a challenge though, because I'm trying to make this one a little bit more commercial, a little bit more attractive to a different agent, a different publisher. And so that's been very challenging because with the series, I've pretty much had free reign to kind of do what I wanted to do. And this is kind of a different prospect. And also I'm writing all new characters. So when I write the series, what's really nice is that they're so much like old friends now. They're easy to write. It's like I'm the director and they're my crew, and we know what each other wants, and it's a different experience for sure.
Right. So we have 5 of the series, 5 books in the series. Yes. Is there another one after you write the novel that you're working on now? Are you going to continue in the series, or are you going to, you know, can you feel?
Well, you know, that's a great question. I've gotten book 5, I must say, has really gotten a tremendous response. It has reached more people than any of the other books of the series. So that's exciting. So I have a lot of new readers, a lot of new fans, and that's great. But I'm getting tons of letters begging for this to not be the last book. Because I have sort of ended it a little bit on a cliffhanger, or not a cliffhanger, but more it's very open-ended. Okay. And I kind of did that on purpose. So I would love to keep writing the series. I do have a book 6 outlined. So I think what I'll do is, you know, try to get this other novel on its way and then maybe turn my attention back to the series.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm sure people are waiting because when you put something on Facebook, since I'm following you on Facebook, I always see how excited they are. And, you do the giveaways and people respond to that. And they're just so happy to read your books. You mentioned your outline. So quick question, what's your process of writing? Do you go chapter by chapter? Do you have a set schedule? How do you do it?
I'm a pretty big outliner. I can't imagine, some writers are very successful just sort of writing by the seat of their pants. They're called pantsers. I could never, ever do that. So I have an outline, and then, what are the, because as you know, I do have different plot lines running, and they're getting more complicated now. So I kind of think about how each plot line is going to evolve, and I write that into an outline. And then I do a little chapter outline, like what is this chapter supposed to achieve, and what is one, and then kind of go through the book. But that's not to say that it doesn't change or it's not organic. But it's more of a guideline, and sometimes things change, but usually that's what I do. I usually write between an hour and 2 hours a day, and then I switch to sort of the marketing business side of the job, which isn't as fun.
Right, I would imagine, because I know what you're doing just on Facebook, even just that I know it takes work. Yeah. With all the people following, and I went onto your website and I looked at each of the books in regards to awards that you've received. And your books have received Indie Book Awards, Beverly Hills Book Awards, Reader's Favorite Book Awards, Goethe Awards, M&M Awards, Ben Franklin Awards, and there is more. So there's a lot of awards there. And I was wondering, with actors, you sometimes hear that all of the awards that they win, the SAG award, is the one closest to their heart because it's by their peers. Is there an award? I know that all of them are wonderful for you when you get them. They have to be. But is there one that maybe tugs a little bit more in your heart than others?
That's a good question. I would say there's two that I feel like are quite prestigious. The IPPEs, which is the Independent Press Publisher Press Awards, and A Girl Like You, which is book one, won the gold in mystery that year. So it actually won the gold in mystery for the IPPEs and the gold for the forewords. And then just recently, A Veil Removed, which is book 4 of the series, won the gold for mystery in the Ben Franklins. And that was a huge, that really meant a lot to me because that's a really tough contest. They have thousands of entries, and I've placed as a finalist before, but I've never won the gold. And so that was just really a special moment for me.
Congratulations for that. That's
Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you again, Michelle, for joining us. It was wonderful to spend a little bit of time with you and get some of these questions that I was very curious about answered. I wish you great success for your new novel. And to our patrons, I just want to say you can find Michelle's books on CLPL.org. You can either go into our catalog, put it on hold, and then have it pick it up during a scheduled curbside pickup, or you can go on Hoopla where you can get an ebook, or you download the audiobook and you can either read it or listen to it there. Well, thank you again, Michelle, and we'll talk to you another time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I hope so. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.